Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brett Campbell Show. In today's episode, I speak with the one and only Taki Moore. Taki Moore is the founder of $1 Million Coach. I've known of Taki for a number of years. Last year, I think it was, when myself and Emily were in America for a month. We ended up bumping into Taki. We went to see another friend of ours, a mutual friend, and we ended up connecting in person for the first time, which was great. And we said back then, we were like, we need to jump on a podcast together. It's taken almost a year, funnily enough, but things have been happening. It's been crazy times here. Taki is a super smart dude. You'll see this in the first few minutes, just the way he talks and the way he articulates things. I sort of frame Taki as the framework guy, and there's a better way to polish that up. But when I say framework, is just his way of thinking and creating and building certain processes and systems. He spends his business $1 Million Coaches, as it says, he coaches coaches. He coaches people on how to build and grow and scale their coaching companies, into millions of dollars a month. So today's episode, we talk about a number of things. I actually ask him, I've been very curious around what's his framework to build frameworks, which if you're a business owner, you need to understand frameworks and systems and how that all works. So we got to talk about that. We got to talk about marketing. We got to talk about business. We got to talk about how he was able to pivot through the COVID situation and help his hundreds of clients do so as well, and actually come out of it even better than what they went into it. I talk about his biggest lessons that he uncovered through the process, which has everything to do with it actually opened up with inside of him someone that he didn't know he was, which was really cool to actually have a discussion about. If you know Taki, you'll be super excited about this episode because, I certainly went to places that you probably don't normally go to on a lot of standard podcasts, but that's what we do here, trying to bring it to you the best possible way. So there we have it. There's lots. If you don't know Taki, you're about to get to know Taki, and I highly recommend you tune into this. It was an amazing conversation, full of wisdom. I tapped into places, I think, of Taki that you might not normally hear him speak like. So hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. So before you do go, though, into the episode, before we make that nice little transition with some transition music, please head over to iTunes, drop us a 5-star review. We'd love that, appreciate that. Make sure you take a screenshot of this and tag myself at Brett Campbell Official. Also, make sure you tag Taki at Taki Moore, TAKIMOORE. So tag us there, upload it to Instagram stories. You know what to do. All right, let's get stuck into today's episode with Taki Moore. Taki, mate, welcome to the show, buddy. I'm really excited to have you here today.
Dude, 100%. I think we first met in LA.
Yeah.
Alex introduced us. And pumped to hang out.
Well, mate, I've seen you online, obviously a lot longer than that. That's where most relationships start these days, isn't it? It's been
it really is.
Seeing
you
someone
right and I swiped left, and we just left it at that.
There we go. Yeah. But mate, been following you for some time, seeing some of the things that you've been doing, putting out. Obviously, it took another mutual friend of ours to connect us in person. Me and my wife had just spent a month in New York, and we were doing a stopover on the way back in LA to head back home. And
that's right. You were flying back that night.
Yeah, we caught up with Alex, and you were running your workshop there actually. So that it was a good opportunity. I was like, you take me back to the hotel, and I'll finally get to meet you and have a bit of a chat.
Yeah.
And you showed up as your stock standard, no shoes, bare feet.
Yeah, dude, I actually, it's funny. I like shoes a lot. Like I actually own more shoes than most people, but I think this year, it's June now, I've worn shoes maybe 3 days this year.
What's your thing around it? Like, obviously Alex loves bare feet because he likes to be connected to the earth, right?
I don't have any, there's no spiritual reasons. I just feel like, for me, shoes feel like ties for ties feel a little bit constrictive.
Right.
Yeah. Shoes always felt like a bit like foot prison.
Yeah.
And,
as a kid, it was when I was growing up. Whereabouts did you grow up first?
I grew up in Melbourne, and we were barefoot.
Right.
Barefoot a lot in summer anyway.
Yeah. So I grew up in Huntly, little town in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Right. I think I remember telling you, and you laughed. You either get the reaction of Huntly because you you know what Huntley
you
is.
Don't know, or you do.
Yeah, or you don't know. Oh, yeah, Huntley. And I can tell the people who don't know. But it was actually...
Married a Kiwi.
Yeah. As a kid, that's all I wore, bare feet. I'd have... My feet were so strong to be able to run on gravel, and, you know, I'd be playing out on the court at lunchtime, playing touch football in bare feet.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's fun. We're looking for a house right now, and so I went to have an inspection of the house. So I put shoes on last week. I went to my local restaurant, and literally 3 waiters and the chef came out and said, "Hang on, you've been coming here for like 5 years. We've never seen you with shoes on." And
but isn't that consistency, right? When you think about that, like, you're technically known, you know, I mean, amongst many other things, but as the dude who wears no shoes
and a black t-shirt. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, do you wear the black t-shirt just for the convenience?
One t-shirt that's not black, and I typically wear it when I'm feeling very chilled and I just want to turn my brain off and just like, it's like a hammock shirt.
Yeah.
So everything else is black. It's just easy, and I really like it. And
a lot of my friends do that, you know, and I think there's something in it. We're making so many decisions throughout the day in business and life that, you know, that whole decision fatigue is actually a real thing, you know.
Plus, like, if you shoot videos for a living, in 10 years' time, like, black t-shirts aren't going to go out of style, bro.
True that.
And so
maybe the V-neck might, or the
I don't know. Yeah, exactly right. I used to be a V-neck guy. Now I've got this weird scoop thing.
Yeah, it's a half.
Ads for like, what's wrong with your t-shirts? You've cut anyway, whatever. Who cares?
Well, mate, given the time of us recording this, we're sort of coming out the back end of, or we've actually forgotten. I think a lot of the world's forgotten almost about, you know, this thing called COVID.
It's funny, isn't it? It feels like you can almost split it by hemisphere a little bit, like Australia and New Zealand. It feels very chill down here, where I feel like we had like a really hard kind of crazy pivot time, and now we're at whatever comes after pivoting before it gets good again. And but in the States, it's a mess. Parts of Europe still, other parts less so. But yeah, I think it's kind of, it really varies by where you are in the world.
It's crazy times. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was having a podcast I recorded maybe before the rioting, before George Floyd. It was like, what a crazy year it's been so far. You know, we had the bushfires, then the floods, and then COVID. And I'm like, I wonder what will happen next. And it's like the earth is almost...
The murder hornets, remember? There's all this thing about murder hornets going to come and kill everybody.
Oh, yeah, they could still come. They could be next. They could be being built right now, bloody, in a lab somewhere. But, mate, when that happened, like, for me, probably, and I'd like to get your perspective, I'm a very optimistic person, right? So I like to always look at the good in everything.
Yeah.
There was a period there, though, for me, probably about a week period, where I was like, oh, my God, this could actually be the thing that throws me personally into a state of turmoil, when I've never really been in that. But I was like, I got no idea where this thing's going. This could shut down everything. What was your sort of, mate, I'm always interested in how you thought through the process when it sort of unfolded.
It happened at a really interesting time. We run 3 events a year in Australia and 3 events a year in the States.
Yeah. And
so early March, we just finished, we ran our event down in Melbourne, and it was great. Corona was starting to be a thing, but people still weren't sure if they could hug or high five or should like step back. And it was like, we were almost joking about it. And 2 weeks later, we were supposed to run our conference in the States, in LA or in California. And we were planning to kind of, battle stations, full steam ahead, all good. And then Trump shut the borders to Europe, and then Tom Hanks got Corona, and we were just like, oh, this is like, Tom Hanks is a national treasure. So we're going to look after this guy.
He was in the Gold Coast here. He was just up the road from us. Yeah.
And so we called it on the Friday, and the conference started on Wednesday. So we canceled flights and so we had like 4 days to do 2 things. Number one, how to figure out how to run a great online conference. The content bit's easy, of course. Like we're good teachers, that's easy. But how do you get like the hallways and the dinners and the social stuff? How do you do that well? So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was all of the content we had prepared that we just ran in Melbourne suddenly didn't feel particularly relevant anymore. So we had to build a whole conference from scratch in 4 days. And so frankly, I wasn't thinking about how we're going to cope. I was thinking about how do we get our guys through this. And for like 6 weeks, we just did not take a break, man. Like I've never worked harder in my life. We switched from like a weekly coaching call to a call every day. We pulled in a bunch of favors and experts and just helped clients navigate.
Yeah.
And I feel like now, finally, I'm going to take a week off next week, going to Byron. But this is from the guy who lives barefoot, hangs around on boats most of the time, and has a very nice life. I've been working like a madman.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself through that period?
A ton. I'm way more capable than I thought.
Right.
I also know that.
And what do you mean by that when you say more capable? Because you're a certainly capable guy, and you already knew you were capable, right? But
yeah, I found a leader in me that I didn't know I had.
Oh, nice.
And a style of leadership that felt really good. It was like I've never felt more clear and focused and on purpose in my entire life. And so I was like, all right, you like when nobody knows what to do because it's brand new, then all it takes is somebody to go do this, and people are looking for leadership and will follow. And we had, we coach business coaches. We've got guys who their entire industry that they serve got shut down, like people who coach dance studios or hair salons, and like everybody's shut. And because of the way that we led, and frankly that they led, their clients navigated it well. They didn't lose a single client. Revenues are up. Like just ridiculous things happened because we pulled together and we led. And frankly, if Corona hadn't have happened, we would have had a really good year. But we've had an extraordinary year. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, like I've spent a lot of time. I like to ponder, and I like to go back through, and I like to find the gold that I've missed.
Yeah.
And I really feel, and I've been talking about this of late, that COVID has been the ultimate reset for businesses and business owners. And to your point, I love that one of the things that you took from this is the ability to lead, because it's not until sometimes you're put in a state of flux, or you're in a situation where you actually have no idea. Because most of the time when I'm making decisions in our company or something, it's like I'm very, very confident in the decision I'm making.
Yeah.
But when you're making, the best of the worst decisions possible, it can be quite unsettling, right? So you do find that with inside yourself, and what it does is shows you what we are as human beings, what we're actually capable of.
Yeah.
I was listening to it was Jordan Peterson the other day. No, it was actually Sadhguru. Have you heard of Sadhguru?
No.
So he's an Indian mystic. Anyway, mysticism, and
I kind of figured by the name.
Yeah.
Last name is
he's my mate. I grew up with him in Huntley. So he was saying that there's 1.23% difference in the DNA between us as humans and chimpanzees, right?
Right. Thank goodness for the 1.3%.
Yeah, absolutely. However, there's a cataclysmic difference in our mental capacity and our brain and what we're actually capable of. Yeah. And we are, as humans, tapping into such a small fragment of what our brain can even do and the way it thinks and what we're actually capable of, human beings. I feel that these sort of situations really need to occur more frequently, which hopefully.
Oh, dude, I don't know about that.
No,
let's hold off on
let me get there. Let me get there. I'll wrap this back up.
Okay, cool.
Right, maybe not at the extent,
not but the reset, yes.
However, 100%. In saying that though, like it's not until you actually have all of these dot points in the specific way that you can become the best leader, right? Because it's without the scarcity of death and without the scarcity of people going out of business and what the flow-on effect of all that looks like, you're not going to be able to tap into the true essence of you as that leader, right? So sometimes you need that evil, that malevolence, that the downside to pull you up through that upside. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's valid. Yeah, I think that's valid for sure. I think it's been a real wake-up call for so many different businesses.
Yeah.
And some, like, I'd love to say that we're doing so great because of us. Like, I think we're doing so great partly because of us and partly because we happen to serve an industry that online worked great. If I ran a restaurant, even if it was the best restaurant in the world, I'd be a little bit screwed right now. And
But this is the value, right? So, for example, and this is what I mean by the ultimate reset. For businesses such as these brick and mortar businesses who maybe are not online, This is your wake up call to go, hey, hold on a minute. This I don't feel will be the last time something like this ever happens. No. And if you just look at a graph, more and more crazier things are just going to start to occur in this world. And we've got to go, are we ready? Right now, I'm not talking building a bunker underneath your house and filling it up with Waddy spaghetti cans, but it's the, are you prepared for what's about to happen? Are you ready for game day, so to speak?
Yeah, agreed.
It's the old adage where I'll ask someone a question. It's like, if you could sit with Elon Musk, what would you ask him? No one really even knows, right? Until they actually have to. It's the, are you prepared for an opportunity when it's presented to itself?
Yeah.
Right now, businesses have the opportunity to go, one, should I continue in this business? Should I continue in this industry? And have an actual look at it and go, well, if I do continue it, how do I want it to look right now? Right. Yeah. And then
perfect.
Who do I get in to help me to do that?
Yep.
Right. First and foremost. So for an example, a restaurant.
Yep.
If they had been building a database prior, something so simple, right? Something that you do extremely well, you coach all your coaches on how to do that.
Of course.
It's, if you had that opportunity, that database from the get-go, you could have transitioned into takeaway meals and, so you're prepared. So what's your advice been to your coaches, right?
Yep.
On how to be prepared if something like that maybe happens again, or have you sort of just what sort of focus have you taken?
We've got a good system in place now, and what we started with was we just got. I mean, are you there?
We had the.
I lost you for a second.
The CSI jumped in for a minute. They were tracking our call. Kidding.
Yeah, no.
Game changer. You were saying something about a game changer.
About the streets running thick with the blood of the infidels that I think triggered the alert. So the first thing we got people to do is to draw a quick triangle and go, what are the top 3 dangers or opportunities, but mostly dangers that your clients are facing? And then we figured out, like, what are the top 3 dangers, and then how do we, if they're the top 3 things that we need to fix, then what could we do? Like, what are the strategies you'd run to help them fix 1, 2, and 3? So we've got, the first thing is, like, is your program still relevant? And if it's not, okay, well, that's got to change. No marketing is going to fix well, my business doesn't matter anymore. So firstly, what are the top 3 now dangers? And then how do you fix them? So that ended up with, 3 strategies, 9 things that they could do. And then secondly, if that's the case, what do we need to change message-wise? And potentially even kind of program delivery-wise, length and price point and stuff like that. And so the first thing we wanted to do was really just like, how do we make sure that your finger is on the pulse? There's an old marketing mantra that hasn't changed in a million years. Like, you must enter the conversation that's going on in your prospect's head. And so that didn't change. But what did change was what's going on in your prospect's head. And so we just needed to make sure that everything was aligned to the current reality. And what we found was about every 10 days that had to change. And so if you think about marketing as like half message and half mechanics, the mechanics didn't change. It's still this add to that process, whether it's a micro webinar or a whatever. But the message changed a lot. And so even just in our business, we've probably had 4 or 5, maybe 5 deliberate message changes over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Just like saying what's going on right now. And because we're relevant, we've done really, really well. And so I think that's the first thing, just kind of be relevant.
Mate, you were pushing not say pushing, I noticed that, when the shit hit the fan, there was this thing to pivoting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The ability to pivot. Right?
Got overused, but like we ended up stopping because everyone started talking about pivoting and it got a bit stale. But
there's a lot of words in the dictionary actually that got massively overbaked throughout that process, especially
if I see one more thing about these uncertain times.
Unprecedented. I stopped saying it because I was like, now I was getting annoyed with myself, and I'm like, why am I getting annoyed with myself saying this word? It's a good word.
Else.
Yeah. The lifespan of that word has been 2 months.
It's gone.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. But when you took that pivot, that shift, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the big things that you did in your business?
Yeah. So the first thing is we stopped. When times are good, people are pretty optimistic and focused on on the future and frankly on what we started calling the yacht. Like great sunny days at some stage in the future when we're all on the yacht together. And I think when things are dangerous or less positive, a little bit uncertain and unprecedented. I think people's future shrank to today. And so we stopped selling the yacht and started selling a life raft. Like, these are the clear and present dangers you've got. Do these things about them right now and you'll get through this. And so we shrank future a little bit. I think that's like one of the core things that we did. Internally, we over-communicated with clients. And I was watching something about the Navy SEALs. I think they're the ones who coined this. They talk about being able to operate in an environment that they call VUCA, V-U-C-A, and I think it's volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. Todd Herman, a mate of mine, kind of brought it to my attention. I heard it again yesterday. But I think like when things are VUCA, then you've got to be really clear. And it's one thing to be, it's kind of a balance, frankly, between being finger on the pulse with the times, but also not being bounced around by the times. So it's like, how do you be a lighthouse that acknowledges the current reality, but is also pretty calm and steady through it? Dude, I sound like a philosopher now.
Mate, 20 minutes with me, we're going places.
100%.
We'll be talking about wisdom in no time. Yep. But I love that, because what it does is I don't know who I heard this from first. I think it might have been Dan Sullivan, right? Which you're a big advocate of, I know. I think you've been a student of Dan's as well. And he said something. He goes, it's the thinking about your thinking. When I heard that, I was like, like that's quite it's such a thought-provoking thing to even have to then start breaking down, right? It's like the Inception movie, the Inception. If you go into that movie with an understanding of, psychology and the way that our brains think and so on and so forth, the movie just becomes amplified, right?
Totally.
And it's the unknown. So it's trying to tap into this level of unknown. And through tough times, and where you said, we'll circle back to, you were able to become a leader, that you didn't think that you had inside of you.
Yeah.
A lot of that is drawn from your ability to actually allow yourself to think more about your thinking deeper about how you solve problems, right? Because you're a frameworks guy.
Yeah, I'm totally a frameworks guy. I don't know that I thought as much about my thinking as you give me credit for. I thought a ton about our clients.
Yep.
I was like, how do I make sure that every one of these amazing people who's kind of trusted us, like, with part of their life and part of their business, gets through this out the other side, not just unscathed. Like, originally it was like, how do we, like, if you think about 3 stages, we were like, how do we protect them? Then what do we need to pivot so that they're kind of agile enough? And then how do we profit? And so, like, after the first couple of weeks, we started asking a different question, which is like, where are the opportunities here? And when we opened up the where are the opportunities here conversation, firstly internally, secondly with our boardroom, $1 million plus guys, and then third with Black Belt, we started to see some real patterns. And there are people just doing, like, while everyone else is like, has been like terrified or hiding in the corner, there's some people just doing mental things. One of that guy's $1 million last month. Yeah. As a coach in a month.
That's
it's
crazy.
Insane.
I remember having a state of the nation conversation with one of our clients here. So very similar to you, right? Your business is predicated on the success of other people's businesses.
Yeah, 100%.
Our business is predicated on the ability for us to actually get the results for our clients, right? So, of course, there was this mixed bag of people wanting to slam on the brakes. Some people like, let's scale. I've never had sales like this before.
Yeah, but, and it's just industry-based, isn't it?
Very much so. Anyone in an e-commerce business over that period, if your product was good, goes through the roof. We had clients breaking $1 million months for the first time ever. But here's the other part to it, right? And this is where the value comes from. And, your client there highly likely probably wouldn't have had a $7 million month if it wasn't for your ability to help him think through something, right? So, for example,
I also wouldn't have had wouldn't have been running online seminars, like 1-day workshops every Saturday.
Right.
There's some stuff now that we've always done live events. Okay, cool. But what if you can't?
Yeah.
Okay. And so now everyone's like tested out these live events and a bunch of us are like, well, will we ever go back?
Yeah. What's the question? Are you going to go back? I think you will, because you love it, right?
Yeah, I froth on it.
Yeah.
We're going to blend.
Yep.
Like we delivered our first ever online conference, and it's not just, just to be super clear, the clicking through PowerPoint slides and talking, that's the easy bit. Like making a conference out of it, that's the hard bit.
Yeah.
At the end of it, we were like, there was 160 people on the first one. At the end of the first day, we're like, we've never done this before. Like, what's it like? And 150, there's always 159 of them said, this is great, maybe even better. Yeah. And one was like, I want to go back to the old days. I'm like, well, we will when we can.
Yeah.
But like, we delivered an amazing experience, and we did it off like, I don't know what the number is. Let's call it $200 a month of Zoom account instead of $75,000 of hotel. Well, that was good.
Yeah.
So that got us thinking about how do we do more of this and make the lives really count when we can go back together.
I think the key point is your the feedback you get from your clients, right? Because I'm seeing people out on social now still going, is anyone doing fitness Zoom sessions still? Like as the gyms start to open, right?
Yeah.
And I'm there's a marketplace for that.
1,000,000%.
Right? There's an absolute marketplace of people who don't want to walk into the gym. If you were able to, be successful doing Zoom sessions and people paying you through that channel, and that's what you want to do, because that's the other part, right?
Of course,
you know the most logical thing for you right now, based off, this is the other part though, it's based off old information too, right?
Yeah.
Because people would have enjoyed it because they were actually able to do something. They were going through a very turmoil time. It doesn't mean right now that everyone still wants to do just online.
No, correct.
So you might find 50-50 might now start to go, you know what? I want to do some online. I actually really do still enjoy the turning up and being able to be a part of, the live environment. And then there's the other part for you that what enjoyment do you get out of it? Right, the enjoyment you get, and it's finding that hybrid, and it's going to be an interesting time over the next few months to see how many businesses, stay at that 100% pivot to online versus,
go 100% back to the way they were, or find something like happy middle. Yeah,
but we just picked up, we just brought on a new client last week, I think it was. Their business, they had 13 stores, right?
Yeah, right.
13 brick and mortar stores. And they're shutting them all and they're going just online because of the success that they were able to get, and the actual reality of they realized they actually didn't need 13 stores. Imagine 13 leases, 13s of everything in a brick and mortar building. There's millions of dollars a year of expenses.
Of 13s just sitting there, 100%.
Yeah. But the other part to that was the lady who owns the company, that's what she wanted to do.
Yeah, correct.
Right? What advice do you give to your coaches when there's this is how you should run it, and there's a bit of a dichotomy of, I know it should be potentially all online, but I actually really want to do online. What's your advice around creating the hybrid?
Should. I think there's coulds, and I think like shoulds are not that helpful. Ultimately, we measure our client success kind of three ways. Obviously, kind of revenue and profit is number one, the dollars. Number two, are they making kind of a big difference and the kind of fully expressing it? And thirdly, what kind of freedom do they have? And like freedom is not just like how many days off do I get, but it's like, am I excited to turn up to work on Monday morning? Mm-hmm. And if there's two identical models and they both tick the money boxes, but this ticks the fun box, well, then we're going to go to the fun box every time. There's no one way. I think sometimes I've certainly been guilty of this in the past. We see somebody's model and we go, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it. And we follow, I've done that. Like I started, when we first got started, we had like a $200 a month, membership kind of continuity program. The only guy who I knew who had a model like that was a dude called Dan Kennedy, who's obviously kind of a famous marketer.
Yeah.
But Dan's like an old guy who's a massive introvert, loves to write, doesn't appear, I think he's probably softer than he appears, but doesn't appear to love people's company that much.
Yeah.
And
uses a fax machine.
Okay, that's what I need to do. So I sent a 12-page newsletter and weekly fax and all this written stuff, and I freaked out. It made great money, but I hated it because I couldn't see the people.
Yeah. I think I did that 13 years ago when I sort of uncovered the online world, right at the very start of it, really. Yeah. It was the affiliate marketing. It was the let's create membership sites, let's have blogs and blah, blah. But it was the what actually lights you up. As soon as there was a video camera that was good enough to be able to, our first online product, you'll laugh at this.
Yeah.
Our first online product, it would have been 11 years ago when I was a personal trainer. So I started sort of my entrepreneurial world in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, Craig Ballantyne at the time. You know Craig?
I know Craig, yeah,
so
Craig,
Turbulence Training had sort of just come out, and my flatmate had just purchased it. I was like, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's a workout program. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you just paid $37 for that thing, and I'm about to go to the gym and trade my time for money.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this thing? So I just became obsessed with marketing, right? That was sort of my entry point into how do I figure this thing out? You know, in between training clients from when I'd get home at 9 p.m. till 3 in the morning, I'm HTML coding sales pages, trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah, sounds like we had very similar startups.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so I got a video camera and I bought the one that I thought I knew and set it up, and I'm in a park. And the zoom wasn't that great. The camera had to be like 20 meters away from me to actually get my full body when I'm jumping and doing the exercises. The grass was long, right? The grass needed a mow, but almost to that point. Yeah, it was almost like hide and seek. But the grass was like above ankle height, right? Which is not ideal. Okay, no. I literally, I laid down on the ground and rolled like a rolling pin to try and flatten the grass because I was like, this is my fourth park I've looked at. This is it. They all need a mow. And there was no lapel mic, so there was no lapel, so I'm yelling at the camera 20 meters away trying to get this thing sorted. I'm just like, this is an absolute... But as soon as the opportunity was there, I was like, I can actually get video. You know, it's not like now. We could go on live on our phones and we got HD quality camera.
We're so lucky. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy, but it was that entry point, right? And that was because that's the thing that I love to do. A lot of my time now is spent talking to businesses who... They're like, I need to learn the marketing stuff, or I need to do the ad stuff, and I need to learn how to build a funnel. I'm like, well, is that what you should really be doing? Right?
Correct.
Like, marketing is the, and I want to get your thoughts around this, around the industry itself. I feel the marketing industry is, whilst it's so old, it's actually very, very new to a lot of business owners in the sense that it's something that they throw off to Karen at the front desk. Right, and Karen's now your social media marketing manager.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Karen gets a bloody lot, doesn't she? Oh, poor Karen.
I don't know if you know this, man, but I overheard my two daughters, they're 10 and 11, chatting yesterday. and they were, I don't know if Karen's a thing. Maybe Karen's a thing.
It is. Karen's a meme.
I'm just so glad I don't have blonde hair because everyone would call me, I'd be a Karen.
Yeah. Is that what they said?
Apparently being a Karen.
I think Karen's a thing right now where it's like anyone sort of complains or anyone says,
you're a Karen.
You're a Karen. So
sorry, Karen.
Yeah, she should be exhausted from that.
So sorry, man. I totally distracted.
No, that's good.
That marketing being passed off to the Karens.
Well, that's market. You could tie that back into marketing. So I'm glad you brought that up. You know, Karen could be used as a meme to market your business. Trust me, it'll work. So my point there being with the industry, right? It's the concept of, are you swimming in your own lane? Are you actually working on the things that you're the best at? You know,
and like 100%. I don't know if you know him. I've got this great friend who's like one of probably the smartest marketer I know. Certainly from a maybe less tactically.
Does it start with J?
Dean Jackson.
Dean. Oh, yeah, Dean. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I thought you were going to throw out
this
James.
Really simple thing called Who Not How.
Yep.
And I just think that's the aim of the game. Like, our job is to figure out what we want and why we want it. And then you've got, like, if you think about kind of why, what, and how as the process, like, I want to do this. You know, I want to grow my business. Fantastic. I'm thinking Facebook ads. Okay, cool. So then I've got two options. I can either go and like learn Facebook ads, which is long and expensive and hard. And I know it's not that long or that expensive or that hard for the right people. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, just going, I'm going to figure out Facebook ads is like writing a blank check for a number you don't know for how long it's going to take. It's going to, or you can just go who. And who knows how to do these ads? Great. And so you're like, I think my main job, and probably yours, is to figure out what we want and then go find the who.
Yes.
And that way you can stay completely in your lane, which is creator or visionary or whatever the word is. And then there's nothing that we want that somebody hasn't figured out. And you could either learn the stuff slowly or find someone to do it for you quickly.
How would you sum up what you do?
Help business coaches grow.
Cool. And in regards to, you know, coaches per se, because I was in the industry before starting the agency. I actually, I felt like I got a little bit of burnout in the industry.
Sure.
Because I was, sharing the best frameworks, the best stuff that I'd been able to do to build multiple millions of dollars in revenue.
Yeah.
And people just weren't doing it, right?
Yeah.
Which led to, okay, let's just build an agency and do it for them. But
agreed. So that's totally one way. If I had the, I'm not as good I don't know you super well, but anyone who's built an agency is good at organization stuff. I'm not. I'm good at talking and I'm good at drawing. And so I'm just going to leverage my two superpowers, like talking and drawing. And so I reckon the secrets, at least for us, to help people get the stuff done, there's probably three. One is to make the stuff really easy to do. Obviously, if you just teach a concept and go figure it out, well, then people are going to screw that up. But if you can go kind of high level to eye level, here's the big idea. Here's the framework, fill in these boxes. That's thing number one. Thing number two is, if we get rid of homework, like the coaching industry is basically a homework dispensing industry, and it's stupid. Hey, Brett, here's your homework. Will you do it? Yes, I will. Next week, did you do your homework? No, Taki, I forgot. Sorry, I got busy. Or okay. Well, let's put that on the list for next week then, shall we? Okay. It's just stupid. Why do we have this conversation? So we've got a no homework rule. And so I just figure if we're going to spend the time together, let's get the work done at the same time. My daughter, Araha, because we've been traveling, she's kind of homeschooled at the moment, but before she was at school. And I don't have anything wrong with, I'm a big fan of school. I think it's fine. It was Thursday night a few years ago, and it was bedtime, so I'm like, okay, bub, time to go to bed. And she's like, oh, Dad, I haven't done my homework. It's due tomorrow. I'm going to get in big trouble. I'm like, I'm really sorry, but, it's bedtime. We're not going to stay up for 2 hours doing homework when it's bedtime. I've got better things to do. And anyway, she's like super stressed about it because of, doesn't want to get in trouble. And I tried every trick in the dad book and none of them were working. Finally, exasperated, I'm like, okay, listen, bub, here's the deal. They've got you for 8 hours a day. If they can't get the work done in 8 hours, why should that be your problem? She's like, okay. And she goes to bed. Anyway, next day she goes to school and they take roll call and then homework. And her name starts with A, so she's up first. Araha, have you done your homework? No. Why haven't you done your homework? Well, my dad says.
Do they do that in front of the whole class?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. Why haven't you done your homework? Well, my dad says, you've got me for 8 hours a day. And if you can't get the work done in 8 hours, why should that be my problem? And sits back down. And
that's fucking gold. She actually said that.
She did. Well, she didn't know that she was being subversive or a revolutionary here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I get the phone call.
She started a movement. The kids are protesting at interval.
As funny as that is, I think it's true. If we're going to come to a workshop or we're going to jump on Zoom together, if we're going to train our clients, let's do the stuff.
Yeah.
You don't go to a personal trainer and they give you the program and then send you away to go do it.
Yeah.
When you're there with a personal trainer, they go, great, do the sit-ups. And you do the sit-ups. I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, that's why Tony Robbins has got you for fucking 5 days in a room for 24 hours almost.
To do the change, not just the courses and the videos are fine, but if we can do the work, that's magic.
Yeah.
And so if we can make it simple, we can do the work together. And then thirdly, if we can get community involved. And so we've got, hundreds of clients right now, all kind of showing up every Monday going, these are the 3 things I'm going to get done this week. And then on Wednesday going, here's my progress report. And then on Friday going, here's what we got done. It just lifts everybody, just like group training.
Yeah.
CrossFit blew up in part what's the cycling one that's big in the States, whatever that's called, whatever.
That's what we did with our fitness franchise, right? That's why I built a franchise, because
of course
I was trading time for money one-on-one, and then I moved to 2-on-1, and then it was a small group, and then I was like, let's just run big groups. All of a sudden you can have 50 people at a session. I'm like, well, the leverage ability here. And then I uncovered the online world, and I was like, you'd actually have 5,000 people. It's the economies of scale are crazy.
Yeah, and most people, I think, go to groups because it's better for them, because they can leverage their time.
Yes.
And I think if you do it right, it's better for the client.
Absolutely.
And, I'm just kind of obsessed with how do we make group so much better that one-on-one just looks like a really bad second choice.
What's the most effective group model that you've seen work over the board? Because, to your point earlier, you were saying when you started, it was like, oh, yeah, that person's doing that. Joe Polish was doing Piranha marketing, and they'd have
that's right.
They'd have three 2-day workshops every year. I actually joined a mastermind, an American mastermind, in the very early days back in 2008. And all I got was 3 2-day workshops in America, either in Vegas, San Diego,
That's me pouring water, not peeing on
taking
camera,
a
just
pee.
to be
That's
clear.
right. We're R-rated here. We're allowed. The 3 2-day workshops, and then I got like one 15-minute call a month. That was sort of the model, right? And these guys had hundreds of people in their program.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is seems like a good model, right? But you don't realize their churn rate. You don't realize, like they had the biggest churn rate. I was like, oh, no wonder, because
of course,
it's a pretty poor
I've got
service.
some friends in the industry who will sign up like 400 new members a year, every year for 5 years, but the number of total members is the same as it was 5 years ago, because 400 in and 400 out. That's not great.
No.
And so part of it is like the delivery model, and part of it is like, frankly, knowing where your clients are at and having some touch points. So if you think, let's go back to gyms because it's your background. I think, like, frankly, running a gym and running a coaching program are really similar. If somebody comes to the gym every 5 days a week and consistently for a few months, and then for a week or so they come like 3 days and then 2 days, that person's on the way out. And a good gym owner goes, hang on, this person's not around as much. Like they check the attendance stats and go, hang on, this person's not engaged. Let's reach out. And so I think we think about our business like that. We traffic light every client. Every Tuesday there's a meeting with all of the clients on a big Asana Trello board thing.
Yep.
And it's got green, yellow, and red. And based on engagement and conversation, people are moved into the right column. And then we decide, like, what are we going to do with these people? And I think if you go to group is easier and it's still work. I think that's the main thing I really want to say. Like, we work bloody hard to know where people are up to. We don't get it perfect, but we're proactively checking with every client twice a month.
Yep.
We're traffic light boarding once a week and assigning reach outs.
Yep.
We're doing a lot of stuff to make sure that people are engaged and happy and green.
Yeah, even that in itself. So we actually do that, funnily enough, a traffic light process here to see where we are from a KPI perspective.
Yeah,
right.
It's the same process.
And every single week you got to look at it. You got to go. But there's also the results. Then there's the relationship. That's the other part. Just because Barry did 5 million last month, it doesn't mean he's happy. Yeah,
totally. And I think that's amazing. So it's really interesting. You use those exact two words. Years ago, I figured out that retention, which is kind of the churn piece, comes down to those two factors. It's relationship and it's results. I know a bunch of coaches who, there's not much relationship, but they just crush results, and so you'd be stupid to quit. But I also know a bunch of coaches who keep clients for years, and like the business doesn't really change that much.
Yeah,
they're just tight. And so I think if you can,
that community,
you can build those two, like, how do we increase client results and how do we increase relationship? And relationship is the client to you, and it's the client to your team, and it's the clients to each other.
Yeah.
And the stickier we can make it, the better it is.
So from a deliverable perspective, right?
Yeah.
And again, there's how long's a piece of string?
Sure.
But how often are you running workshops, like, or masterminds with inside? Because I mean, you've obviously got your $1 million coach. Then you've got, is Boardroom, is that the $1 million plus coaches?
Yeah, sorry. I did a boardroom call before and I forgot to move the poster. So if this looks like a sponsor
promo, he's trying to nice promo. We'll give it to there. Boardroom. There you go. I like the name though.
100%.
Should be called Virtual Boardroom right now.
Yeah, well, it is Virtual Boardroom right now.
There you go. Look at that.
Well, sorry, it's not named, but that's exactly how it's being delivered right now. Let me find something that might I'll be able to, like, super quickly explain how we do stuff right now.
Yeah, go for it.
And because I just delivered this yesterday, this could be useful. So I'm just going to click a button, and through the magic of technology, you can see my iPad. Isn't
Look at that.
So this is a year. I'm not going to give you all the touch points because, frankly, that's overkill. But if in a year we have 3 live events, so March, July, November. At the moment, because of Corona, hello Snapchat or whatever we're on right now. At the moment, because of Corona, we're actually doing a halftime intensive at the halfway point, like a half day workshop just to keep people focused on kind of projects. Yep. So that's a year. In between each of the events, there's 3 months, right? So in the months where there's no event, roughly it looks a bit like this. So for us, every Friday we have a live training call. The first week of the month is a training. We're teaching a cool new thing. Then we have a skill session where we're not teaching something new. We're just getting people really good at fundamental stuff: how to sell, how to coach, how to deliver content. Week 3, we run a mastermind. Groups of 6 people in Zoom breakouts, workshopping with each other. 8 to 10 minutes per person. Get me unstuck on my thing.
Yep.
4th week, hot seat. Take client who's done something really cool, grill them in front of everybody else, and so that it's part inspiration, part really practical, useful value.
Nice.
So that's Fridays. At the moment, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we run a coaching call every day, so people are never more than 24 hours away from getting like real live, actual help from someone who knows what they're doing.
So like a group coaching call?
Correct. Exactly right.
On Zoom?
Outside, on Zoom. Yep.
So you can just come and throw whatever questions at you.
Yeah, people go, hey, and so there's a structure for the call, obviously, but it's basically, what are you working on? What do you need?
Yeah.
And let's get you helped.
Yeah. That's a much better model than a lot of people, and a lot of people. You already said this, but I feel a lot of people who enter into the coaching space, especially the coaches space, is they're building their coaching.
Crowded up here.
Yeah, it's very crowded. It's getting crowded, all right. It's building their business for them and not their client's outcome.
Right. So here's the thing. Like we've got maybe 3 moving pieces which make our life really simple. So we've got a fun vision. Here's what we want. Like Bill Gates used to talk about, I can see a time when there's a computer on every desk. Like that's awesome. For us, we want 1,000 black belt clients on an island in 5 years. It's going to be fun. It's going to be half business, half party. I'm pumped on that. We're nowhere near 1,000, but we're tracking, right?
There will be 0 business getting done on that island. Just saying.
We'll pretend. So that's thing 1. Like we know where we want to go. How do we do that? Well, we track. We're business coaches. Our job is to make people's income go up. We track income with karate belts, and it's weird. The program's called black belt. A black belt is $1 million a year. A white belt is 10 grand a month. Yellow is 20, and it goes up like this. So our job is really simple. Minimum, every client's got to go up 3 belts a year. If you do that for a couple of years, guess what? You're $1 million coach, and we're kind of delivering on our promise. Minimum. Some people do it way faster, but like that's our floor.
Yeah.
And so everything we do in a business isn't like, obviously I care a ton about how many clients we have and our revenue and our profit. But you know what I really care about is like the question we ask, just like will this make the boat go faster from the rowing crew? The question is really simple. It's, will this help somebody go up 3 belts this year? And if it does, we do it. And if it doesn't, we don't. Why are we doing daily calls? Well, because it'll help people go up 3 belts this year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. There's more than enough touch points required for someone to be able to keep moving forward. Do you have inside and this is more just curiosity, do you have the ability of any one-on-one conversation?
Yeah, we totally do. So the question you were asking was about one-on-one. Basically it goes like this. There's a one-on-one up front to set plan for the year and specifically 90 days.
Yep.
At the halfway point between the events, we'll reach out and say, hey, how you going with your plan? Do you want a hand? And then at any moment, at any time, a client, if they want more help than they can get in the group or on the group calls, they can just book in a 20-minute call at any time they want.
Awesome, mate. That's good. That's a solid model. I'm sure it's being copied. I'm sure it's being copied like bloody wildfire right now out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, well, it's being taught and copied, and that's kind of the whole point.
Absolutely, we all learn from someone, right, mate? I want to ask you because you're afraid. I've already said you're a framework guy. Yeah. I love frameworks too.
Yeah.
For specific reasons. I want to know, why do you use frameworks first and foremost, like to the depth that you do, like everything, like almost to the point if you were teaching your kids how to tie your shoe, I bet you there's a 3-step process.
Yeah, there's a process for everything.
Why? So why do you do that?
Well, I'll tell you why, and then maybe a quick like how, like why I started doing it might be helpful, maybe. Yeah. But why is really simple. Like when you're trying to figure out something new, there's 3 options. I didn't invent this. One of my clients said it, and I just stole it. His name's Eli. He was like the number 1 sales guy for Tony Robbins for like 8 years, outsold the whole rest of the sales team single-handedly. And he said, Taki, here's what I love about your stuff. I think that like there's either hard work or there's guesswork or there's framework. And so framework is just like a mental shortcut. It just makes things easy.
Yep.
And if you have to do something more than once, have a system for it, a framework for it. That's all it is.
I love that.
The reason I like frameworks better than scripts for stuff is because our business is really about helping a coach or an expert get their message out there and grow their business. And if I give them the script, they sound exactly like me, not exactly like them. And so I think about our stuff like it's a container. It's best practice. But if they put their content in and their personality in, the framework makes it work, but it's like the special sauce is them. So that's kind of the bit.
I love it.
I wasn't good at this stuff. When I went to run our first ever workshop, I figured if we're going to have a workshop, we need a workbook. If we're going to have a workbook, we need worksheets. Worksheets are just little boxes, and that's where Framework started because I needed to know what the hell to put on the damn pages. And that's kind of how it started.
I love it. You sort of just shared it there, though. But what else can you add to someone who, they're a business owner right now and everything's just all over the place and they couldn't go and, you're the first guest I've ever had who's popped up his own screen and broken out an iPad with a framework where you knew exactly where that sheet was, right? That's a skill. I had to forcibly learn that when I built the franchise because I was like, okay, I've got this business now. How do I duplicate it? But how do you think about a framework? How do you build out a basic framework? What's sort of your basic framework within the framework?
So it's easier than you think. So there's a few steps. The first step is, what's it for? Secondly, what are all the things which could go in it? And so we're just like, for me, it's a mind map. It's super like it's what's it for in a circle, and then a bunch of like weird spiders off to the side with this, that, and the other thing. Like, so like what could go in it? And then step 3 is sequence. So what order do they go in? And if you end up with like 28 steps, it's too many. And so then we're just going to like condense and chunk some together. So it's basically step 1, all of the possible options. Step 2, what sequence do they go in? And then are there any that we can cut or merge together? And then we usually end up with, the nice thing about like using a worksheet as a container for a framework is, if a worksheet's got more than sort of 9 boxes, it's getting too much. So that's the process. And once we've got it into a sequence, then it's putting it into the right number of boxes on the right number of pages. I know that sounds really basic, but that's exactly the process.
No, it is sometimes the basic things are the basic things, right? The thing you need to do. Yeah. People overthink it and they'll go, oh, geez, Taki's got a triangle. I need a triangle, right? And it's like, well, no, you don't necessarily need a triangle. You could have a circle. You could also use a circle or a square. What advice do you have around the design of it? Because I think it's important. There's a lot of people I know out there try and think their way through certain things. I'll share why I love frameworks in a second, but from a visual perspective, what generally basic principles you got?
Yeah, so we're all biased, right? We all think our stuff's the best. I'm no exception. I think my stuff's the best.
I've got to give credit where credit's due. I think you've got some of the best frameworks I've seen, man. I've got to give it to you.
For our stuff, it's going to be like, if you're an agency, you'd be an idiot to hire me. If you're a business coach, you'd be an idiot not to. But like, does that make sense? I think it'd be really bad, like almost a sin, to have the best stuff and have people not take it seriously because it looks like crap. And so all I'm trying to do design-wise is to make it look as good as it really is. So I don't make my own stuff anymore. I used to build worksheets and slides. But it's templated, dude. It's frameworks. Like if you looked at 29 random webinars, like any 29 webinars from me that I've delivered in the last 3 years, either the video, if you just looked at the video and you went, okay, it's an hour-long session. I'm at minute 13. I can tell you exactly what's happening at minute 13 because the structure is the same for every session. The content's different. The topic's different, but the format's the same. It's 3 frustrations and a fear, 3 wants and an aspiration and a case study, then a question that people ask and answer. Then there's a model that we draw and talk about. Then there's 5 key points and a question that people talk about. Then there's worksheets that we work, like it's the same. And because the stuff is modular, it's really easy to design for. Can I show you one thing?
Mate, you can show me whatever you need.
Yeah, it might take me 2 seconds to find.
It's all right.
I'm searching in the wrong thing. If I search for...
Even the name of it, right? This is called the jam session, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is like the webinar jam session is where we taught this. Let me find this thing right here. Is every webinar we ever run ever gets built on this thing, like not a sales webinar, a teach webinar.
Nice.
And so literally I'll do a bunch of brainstorming and it looks super messy. And then my job is to go, we'll go red because it's the away from stuff. Like these are the top 3 frustrations and the fear that's involved. Then green pen, what's the wants and the aspiration? Who's the client case study? And I might go, it's Brett. And then this is where the question goes. So I'll write whatever the interaction question is. I'll write the 5 points, and then what the image is for each point. We want a camera, or I'll just write what it is, and then the question. Then the model usually lives on a page down below, like say this one here. And then the worksheets, again, I'll fill out on a page down below. Oh, yep. There you go. Hard work, framework, guesswork. So what I do then is I just take this and I stick it in Basecamp, and then, finished product, like 99% perfect every time, comes straight back to me. Does that make any sense?
Mate, makes absolute sense.
And like my life is easy because I'm drawing, which I'm good at.
Of course.
And then Mike, we've got a great working relationship. We've done work together for years and years and years. He knows the framework, and he'll just take the Keynote master file, and put my words in first, and then go hunting for the images that I said, and then show it to me, and I'll go, oh, that's good, but I want my lighthouse more like this, less like that. Okay, great, it's done.
Yeah. Mate, it's such a great skill to be able to have, because it takes learning and it condenses it down into really easy basic steps. If they implemented some form of frameworking in school, it would change the way, because this is why I love frameworks.
Yeah.
One, I can retain information so quick.
Yes.
Right. So I've done a lot, a fair bit of memory training, and, I've read the books, I've done some course, and I've looked at it, and I've tried to, study the masters of memory, and because there's got to be a way on how they do it, right? There's a framework around how to do it. Like this is one thing that I learned in a book about 2 years ago that I still know to this day, and it's based off parts of your car. And you're like, okay, so the bonnet has got a carrot going through the bonnet. Like, so I can name all the super veggies just based off this one way, a framework of how to think about something, right? But what it does is it allows me to be able to retain information, which is it's lacking in this day and age for sure.
Yeah.
It allows me to be able to teach it easier.
Yeah.
Right? Because then, to your point, you're not scripting out something. It's like, cool, I could do an entire day workshop on these 7 points. Because inside 100%. These 7 points is this, and inside each point of that is, so that's how memory trainers, learn
Completely.
fucking 800 digits in a row, right? Is by building a framework. So I think there's
the other nice thing that's good about a framework is there's some freedom in it. It's like a game of footy. There's some set rules, but within the set rules, kind of anything goes.
Yeah.
And so we call it freestyle in a framework. I really love it. Like some people they had to shoot a video, they'd script it out and they'd read off the teleprompter. I hate that. Sounds like hard work for me. But if I've got a framework, I know these are the 3 things I've got to do. Every one of my videos follows the same 6 boxes. It's kind of easy for me to put out great stuff.
Yeah.
I think if we can get the right balance between, awesome and easy, we're doing it right.
But it's teachable, right? And it's replicatable.
It's totally. 100%.
It's like you go and try and cook your grandma's banana bread without the instructions and the directions of how to do it. Like, what do you put in first? Do you put the banana in last? Is it already mashed up? Or, right. That's probably where I tap out on the ingredients there. But
I've only cooked a cake once. Twice. The first time I put salt instead of sugar, that was
Mate, I did that as a kid as a chocolate cake, and I couldn't understand why. It didn't work.
So gross. And the second time, it said, I'm going to butcher this, but it was like 40 minutes at 150 degrees or whatever it is. I was like, well, you know what? If I double the temperature, I could half the time and get my cake quicker.
Logically, that makes some sense. One of my biggest fails was I'd just been to so at school it was called manual, right?
Okay.
And what happened is when you were like a Form 1, Form 2, you'd go to manual. Form 1 and 2 is the equivalent of the 2 last years in primary school before you go to college, right?
Yeah.
And I'd always sit at the front of the class because I knew that our cooking teacher, she would use our ingredients as the test, and she'd just basically cook it for us. So me and my mate just sit there and we're like, oh, yeah, use ours, right? So we'd always sit there because we knew we'd get it done. Yep. And I went home one day, I was like, oh, Mum, I want to make this brownie. And she's, oh, yeah, okay, well, have a go.
Yeah.
And I put it in the oven, and it was just like a flat, like it was supposed to rise up and be this nice cake. Yeah, it was just a flat biscuit. I was like, what the, She goes, what'd you put in? I said, I put flour, I put da-da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, what type of flour? I said, flour. She goes, it's supposed to be self-raising flour. And I'm like, what's the bloody difference? Like, so there you go.
Yeah.
So you could have all the best intentions. You could be trying to take action on something, but if you don't have the right ingredients, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah. So back to the question you asked before about like, how do you make a framework? It's really those two things. Like, what are the ingredients, and then what's the order? Yeah. That's all we're doing.
And then choose your own visual flair on it, so it looks good. Because you're right, it needs to be something that is visually compelling, so someone can. You don't want someone looking at it and they're confused. You want someone to be attracted to a framework before they even know what it is. So they're curious about wanting to learn about the framework.
Yeah, and like models have, like if you think about like triangles and circles and squares, this is getting probably nerdier than it needs to get. But I think like the words you use and the shapes you use are really important. Like if we were talking about community, well, naturally community feels more like a circle than a triangle. You know what I mean? And so you go like, what's this about? Is there a shape that matches? And then there's like 3 different kinds of circles, 3 different kinds of squares, and 3 different kinds of triangles. And we just kind of pick the one that maps closest.
You're not going to have a pentagon, a dodecahedron.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, what the fuck is that? I haven't seen that since school. How many sides is that? Is that a...
Yeah, that's right. It's like playing Dungeons and Dragons with 12-sided dice or something weird.
But it's true, though. You say that sort of goes nerdier than what needs to happen, but I actually feel that's what sort of needs to be in the conversation, right? Yeah. When you said, you naturally went, we'll go red because it's moving away, and then we'll use the green colour. Like, colours emit psychological responses.
Yeah, everyone knows red's bad and green's good. That's just how it is.
And those are the 1%ers that can make the difference.
Yeah, agreed. Just like on a quadrant model, top right is always the good end and bottom left is bad, and the other two are sort of somewhere in between.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. I know we've got to jump off here in a quick second. But I want to give you an opportunity. What do you want to share right now to business owners and entrepreneurs, in this current space and time that we're bloody living in? What sort of words of advice?
Oh, crap. Here we go. It's like when someone goes, hey, be funny.
Yeah. Tell me a joke and I want to laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm not inspired by what you say, you've failed.
Be deep, Taki. Be deep.
Can you please tap into that wisdom of yourself and the guru?
Yeah, man. I will.
What comes to your... But what's
2 things come to mind. I think here's the first thing. If you're a business owner, you're a creator by nature. And I think it's really easy to, particularly maybe less so now, but it was really easy when all of the crap was hitting the fan to just to get sucked into the downward spiral of all of the crap that is going on around us. And you get into this consumption mode. And I think if you had to choose, like, am I going to consume or am I going to create? I think coming from a place of creation puts you back in charge, locus of control. I think like just remembering, hang on a minute, I've got options here. I can choose what I want. That's really, really important. And then the second thing is, if this Corona thing has given you an incredible boost and you're crushing it, or if this Corona thing has given you like a smack in the face and you're still kind of getting up days, just go, you know what, this is an opportunity to maybe do some of the things that I've been thinking about for a while. Dale Beaumont's a great mate of mine, and he's been on the show. A really thorough, kind of extraordinary program, Business Blueprint, and they use this coronavirus thing as a chance to, like, frankly, redesign and simplify their business model in a way that he'd probably been thinking about for 3 or 4 years and couldn't, too strong a word, but didn't, because this is the way we do it. Yeah. And I think this is like a pause, a reset, a reimagine is a really lovely opportunity, and you shouldn't squander a crisis.
Mate, I love it.
Dude, that sounded deep.
Now make me laugh. Make me laugh. There you go. That was easy.
Make you laugh.
You just need to smile.
It might be PG. Heard a joke the other day. As an Aussie comedian, Steve Hughes.
Yeah, Hughesy.
Skinny guy. Not Hughesy. Stephen Hughes lives in England, got a ponytail, looks like he should be selling the Big Issue.
Right.
So he moved to London. By the way, this is not a politically correct joke, and you have my full permission to edit it out.
Hey, this is absolutely going in. This could be the intro of the show if it's that good.
Oh, God. It's not good, man. It's not good. You can make the decision.
This part right here is probably the intro, so I'll hook them to watch it.
Yeah, he's so he's in London, and he's in an area. He's got an earring in his right ear. I think it's his right ear. It could be left. And he bumps into a mate. He goes, "Oh, mate, you've got an earring in your," I think it's right ear. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, here in England, if you've got an earring in your right ear, it means you're gay." He goes, "Really?" Because in Australia, it's when you've got your cock in another man's ass. And, anyway.
True. Facts.
Anyway,
Mate,
I thought it was funny.
You've spat nothing but facts. That's good, mate. I like it. Love it. Thank you so much for contributing today, mate.
Like Brett's like, okay, we're just going to leave here now.
Wrap it up. No, mate, that was fantastic. We'll have to have a few more. I've got a few jokes too that won't make the podcast.
Yeah, I think that one probably shouldn't. But
no, that's a good one. That was. Okay. I think that was fair. That was fair. Mate, looking forward to bumping into you next time whenever you're up 100%. In the coast. We've obviously got to catch up.
We're pretty keen to get up to the sunny coast as soon as we're allowed. Yeah, we're going to Byron next week because it's about as far north as I'm allowed to go with the quarantine. But as soon as we can, we'll head up your way. It'd be great to catch up.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Thank you very much, mate.
Pleasure.